All right, man. Let's veer left and go straight to the nonsense. Let's go off the serious subject and get straight to the nonsense. So what we're talking about is what the hell is up with the beef that will last forever and ever. I don't think these dudes. I think these dudes is just right up there with 50 Cent and Ja Rule. Like there's the
Ain't never
amount
gonna die.
of hate and stuff that they have for each other is ridiculous at this point. But nevertheless, we're here. It happened last week, and now multiple people are involved as far as Royce the 5'9", Eminem, Benzino. Prez, you want me to walk them through what happened? Give them a
So
great
let me
background.
walk through my experience on this.
Okay.
Like when you brought it up to me, you was like, "Hey, so what's up? Like, hey, you been seeing this stuff?" I'm like, "I don't care. I never cared about Benzino. Like, why should I care about Benzino? I know he was over the source, and then he tried to veer into rapping or whatever it was before that. He owned the source. They had the little thing with Eminem. Never really like dive too much deeper than that. Honestly, I never did. I was like, so that was my little point of reference on it. I was like, I really don't care. Like, if anything, Benzino is getting more popularity out of this. Like, that's the reason he's latching on to all this because at one point in the early 2000s, his status was here on the source. Everybody wanted to go through that, get their 5 mics and everything. So he's up here. But in 2020, like nobody got a funnel through him or nothing. He's pretty much irrelevant in the music portion. I ain't gonna say completely irrelevant, but I'm saying like his stature is not as high as it was before. So you can see where he needs this, or he can utilize this publicity to his benefit. Uh, but I was speaking out my ass, didn't have no knowledge on all the whole situation. You pointed me to an interview.
Yeah, that's where it started from.
It kind of expunged on a lot more information for it, and I had to like backtrack, and I can kind of see where it's gonna go. Like, so I'll let you tell out all the rest of the stuff, where to find that interview and everything, and then we'll go into it.
Yeah, so it's a YouTube guy from back home. I'm from New York City. If y'all didn't already know, if y'all listening for the first time, Brooklyn to be exact. And it's a guy called Queens Flip, and he's kind of known from like URL type stuff, and also like some videos that he's put on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. Kind of viral guy, but he's been around the music and the culture and just New York stuff. He's kind of fairly a little bit younger than us, but he's in his mid 30s or whatever the case may be. He has a very good podcast. Like they talk to all types of people as far as that's been in the streets and stuff like that. And they got a damn near 200 episodes on YouTube.
Okay.
So this episode in particular, I don't catch all his stuff, but I catch some of his stuff. It just depends on who he talked to and just old legends in the street game. I'm it's
From
just
New
like what.
York. I mean,
Oh yeah, from New York.
I really don't care if
You
he's
hear
like
about,
crazy.
but you hear about some of
Yeah.
these people in raps and behind the scenes and stuff like that. So it's interesting for me to hear some of their stories. It ain't nothing. It's just like watching Scarface or something like that. You watch a pretend gangster and love that movie. I'm just watching the guys that I've
Actually
heard
did.
about in the streets from time to time. So he has a lot of people on there, all walks of life, right? So he has Benzino on, and he just shows the Benzino clip, which is 30 minutes long, and it's just about Eminem. So this isn't like an interview where Benzino came out of nowhere just coming at M. So it's not really for a reason, so to speak. He was just asked the questions by Queen's Flip as far as what happened with Eminem, and then you have a 30-minute interview from there that has made its rounds
Yeah.
around the internet, and we're gonna put the link up there so that you guys can actually go back if you find this topic interesting to kind of just listen for yourself, just in case we paraphrase something the wrong way, or if you want to hear the details, so you can kind of get a little bit more educated as far as where Benzino's coming from. So I get it. Eminem's big, the bigger artist, and a lot of things have happened, over what almost 17, 20 years ago
Yeah.
at this point. So, that's kind of where the basis and all this stuff comes from. So he had a few choice words. He didn't back down with
Didn't
how
back
he
down
felt
at all.
about
He actually
Eminem all
doubled
these
down
years.
on a lot
Yeah, he
of-
doubled down on a lot of stuff as far as how he feels about Eminem. Of course, it went to Eminem being white, not really being from Detroit, being from Missouri. He went back to the tape as far as the
So I think you.
he went all over the place. So let's walk him through it
Let
slow.
me jump in through it. And what I'm let me backtrack a little bit because I said like, hey, I really don't know what Benzino worth is and all this little stuff. I wasn't talking about his money. I was just saying, as far as stature.
Yeah, yeah.
He was over the stores back in the day that everybody went to and funneled to. The source is nothing right now, like to any of that. And like people goes to wherever they want to go to find out about music. It's not a magazine anymore. So you got to think like his stature, his money, what may still be the same. I don't know. But Benzino, when he was coming on here, he was like saying like when that first happened and everything, all he was getting all this info from by Eminem, and he kind of knew how the game was, and it was just like they was looking business minded. If we get a white rapper,
That can actually
it's gonna
rap.
it's gonna sell. It's gonna sell. But Benzino was saying like, well, just like with any other artist, if you was fake or whatever, like he's gonna put that out there. You can't be saying that you from the streets or you from this right here, and this is what you represent. And then your background says totally different. So he had all that info at his at they had did their research, they figured all this stuff out. Like he wasn't from Detroit, he wasn't this, he was in this group. If y'all know, like he was in another little group and they rapped and stuff
Yeah,
before, but
things went
a lot of his
sour. Yeah,
stories was just like it was fabricated. They was trying to build a star. And you could do that in
that,
pop and everything else, but hip hop at the time, you couldn't come fabricated like that, or you went into a different pocket. And that's all he was trying to do, expose him like, okay, he's gonna be over here, but he's not what y'all think he is. This dude ain't like all this. He can rhyme, but they're building him up this way.
yeah. So yeah, so and Benzino went on to kind of talk about a lot of different things as far as, of course, we've talked about this, or you have had these discussions if you're watching this at this point, as far as would Eminem be as successful if he was a black artist? What Benzino said about that was he basically compared him to cannabis. And you could think of a lot of other black rappers who had that type of vernacular and the type of penmanship to put words together, but not necessarily get the backing that he got in the different type of opportunities that he was afforded. Is Benzino wrong for that?
No, no, no. I feel like he's right about that. I mean, that's the but I think me and you come at I said some things on it like over the weekend. I was just like, yeah, this is what they would call and classify in the privileged little category. But for music, it's a choice of what people is actually picking up. So I feel like it's a different type of pocket, man. Always knew if you had a rapper that looked like this other audience, you know what I mean? They gonna grasp and go on to it. It's the same thing if I go to country, if I go to rock or whatever. You're always gonna find those artists that look like you that because they can kind of inspire you and you're like, okay, I can do this too. I ain't the only one, da 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 da. You know what I mean? So that's who they had the grass on, and the dude could rhyme very well on that portion. So, I
And that's one thing Benzino didn't stray away from saying he could rhyme. Like that's one
yeah,
thing he never said. Like, is hip hop culture, black culture? Absolutely. Like that's
yeah,
110%. Anybody, whether you talking to Fat Joe who's been in the game for years and he's Puerto Rican and he'll tell you that it is. You know what I mean? Like people respect it to the point where the rappers that I listen to, even if they may not be black, they may be mixed, they feel the same way.
yeah,
I think Eminem also feels the same. And in fact, I know Eminem feels the same way because he said it in interviews with multiple interviews over the year, and he's also aware of his privilege. I'm not making excuses for that. You know what I mean? As far as him having that privilege, like it is what it is. We know that's a fact. However, I think where Benzino goes wrong is Benzino brought up the rap race tapes where you were talking about his squad back in the day. They kind of things went astray, whatever money issues or Benzino really didn't get into it in the interview, so I don't want to make anything up. But what I'm saying is things went awry to the point where these guys wanted to sell Benzino and Dave Mays his tape where he's had a lot of racist comments and go do your research on that. There's a tons of YouTubes that can deep dive in that. Moving along. He brought the tapes from the guys, exposed him with the tapes. Jimmy Iovine said certain things, tried to get Benzino to come up to not drop the tapes. Interscope and or Eminem ultimately ended up suing Benzino and losing in that lawsuit as far as that goes, as far as the leaked tapes. And what Benzino had an issue with was M never really
Apology.
apologized. And then the interviewer, Queen's Flip, said he brings up Yellow Brick Road as that was M's apology, which M clearly apologized in the song.
Yeah.
So,
But now this is where I did agree with Benzino. And Benzino said, is that an apology? Is that how they would have done anybody else? And history tells us
bring it up. Bring it up. What we talked about.
nowhere in the world. I mean, look how they did Michael Vick for Dogs.
Kevin Hart.
Look how they did Kevin Hart for saying something about the Grammys. He had to go around.
It was
the Academy Awards, whatever.
Was it a insensitive comment
And
to
then he had
gays?
to go around and apologize on all these radio station, TV appearances.
I don't think he ever did apologize. I think he just.
But they shop him around though. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. And it's just like,
But the fact that he got pulled from it when he was going to host the Grammys and had to go through the apology tour, or just like kind of seem contrite to what he said to say, hey, look, I apologize, because Kevin Hart had already apologized for it prior to this being brought up again. But he did have to kind of, people wanted an apology a certain type of way.
yeah,
And that's the only thing I disagree with. Like, if our artists make music and that's how they best communicate, and they do it in song, if they respond to beef in song, if that's how they communicate with us. Did he have to hold a press conference and do all that? This is where I disagree with Benzino, because I agree with the interviewer Queen's Flip when he was saying like, hey yo, you can't make people apologize the way you want them to apologize just so you can be like, you know what, that apology
that's
is
a lie
justified.
though. We always do it.
I don't agree.
Your kids come in here and do something right now. You can be like, hey, say you're sorry.
That's my
Say you're
kids.
sorry.
I can dictate that.
But I'm saying it's a way that we done already. They done constantly came up in here and they just said, this is what you got to do when you make these types of mistakes. You got to come on here and make this public apology. You got to give back to this organization. You got to open up this nonprofit, and you got to educate people. You got to really like. We want to. If you're sorry, you got to do all this. Extra stuff
Mike Vick did. Multiple players in different sporting leagues that have beat on their women or did something like that. Like, they've had to reintroduce themselves into society and kind of talk about that thing.
I mean,
but
if you look at football right now, Darren Waller, like, he drug addict, he got to come out every week talk about it. Hey, I was addicted to drugs. Like, come on, man. Like, how you got to apologize for all this stuff? But that's they want to hear the story,
right? But back,
so why does he not? Why does he get a pass? And this once again goes into the if you're going to talk about the privilege portion, like, this is an added privilege. He's the one in the group that's you want to put on GOAT level and stuff like this, and he would get a fresh pass off of it, a fresh pass.
So like
Jay-Z got thrown through the mud for the whole Beyonce situation,
cheating and shit like that. Yeah, but you brought up Kevin Hart, but like here's why I disagree. I don't feel like Kevin Hart had to do that. I don't feel like people have to apologize the way you want them to, as far as adults. Like however you
How did Nas apologize for the whole incident with him and his ex-wife?
It never was substantial. I'm not in the weeds on that, so I can't really speak to that. But what I will say is, for the Kevin Hart thing specifically, because you brought that up, he did apologize. It just wasn't the way people wanted him to apologize on a public forum in a certain type of way. I see that when people start getting into that shit, then I'm like, nah, man. If I apologize and I do it through change behavior, then it is what it is. Like, look at what I've done since then. Since I said those words on Twitter and Instagram, have I been saying insensitive gay remarks or insensitive racist remarks? With Eminem being such a prominent figure, that's where Benzino's issue is. He felt like it should have been more. I just happen to disagree in a way. You can't want people. If he apologized, he apologized. And if he never did it again, he never did it again. And you kind of got to go from there.
But now this is what we talked about. Well, he's kind of in a position where he can't ever do it again.
He's too big.
Once M like took off, like he went off to a different stratosphere, man. Like he's
like Beatles famous.
Yeah, like this dude don't interact with regular people like we interact with people. Like he got his security around him nonstop. He can't go to these places. He ain't going to no mall, chilling, hanging out. So the likelihood of him getting caught up in these, it's probably the reason why he keep going back to his girlfriend that he done wrote 37 songs about uh cheating on him and doing all this other stuff because she the only person that know the real him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And another fact that came out of this interview was the fact that they tried to say, oh, Eminem was really young. Pretty much like all of these athletes and shit like that that be on Twitter that say certain racist things or like certain things that are said on Twitter or whatever, and then it gets drug up years later when they're probably 6, 7 years removed from it. They probably 22 in the league, but they said some shit when they was 13 or liked some stuff, said some comments. Now then it was substantiated and Benzino went through the Maxwell Corporation and he was spitting facts that he did some real like covert type research to make sure that he was right and
No,
saying
no.
he
When
wasn't 16, he was 21.
he said that
He was
like
21 when that
despite
happened.
what the people
Yeah.
want to put the source as, hey, he was on his news journalism type, and they actually made sure that it was facts. They contacted people ahead of time before it was gonna be put out. You know, like, hey, this is gonna be the truth, whatever. Make sure you ain't nothing up in here that's false, because they didn't want to get sued as well.
Do you
They
think
knew that could have been a
do
liability.
you
on them.
think M is a racist based on just being a fan of rap music all these years? Do you think he's a racist based on what he said in that song, however many years ago, in the songs or some song? I don't know if it was a tape or just a song.
No, I think he appreciate what it afforded him and where it got him throughout his lifetime, and like he's constantly like one thing I'm gonna always say, man. No matter what, M gave us 50 Cent. Like, well, he didn't give us 50 Cent, but he gave him that platform to elevate 50 Cent on up to we got
50 will tell you that. Yeah.
get rich or die trying, and you know what I mean. Like that's why I appreciate him. It ain't really too much for all his albums. I mean, he has one classic album to me, Marshall Mathers LP. Other than that, it's just like a color. Yeah, we talked about this last week.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and you know that
I think he done grown. But what's wrong with admitting, hey, back then I did say this. Some people feel like I ain't never apologized. You know what? I'm sorry. I have did this, and this is what I'm doing to avoid all this little stuff and educating people a little bit more. You know?
yeah, and ain't nothing wrong with that. And then the interview of Queen's Flip, he had like some valid points, and sometimes sometimes you gotta understand that in the moment back in 2003, how old were we in 2003 or 2002, whenever this was going on, when this
I don't
nail
know
in the
how old
coffin?
was you. I was like 2 years younger.
No, you wasn't, because you actually a couple months older. So we probably 19, 20 at that point, roughly. You know what I mean? Were we that much into our blackness and our and things that were being hidden behind the scenes in the music industry? Like if something
No.
something like this happened, it got glossed over. Like it
Well,
really
Benzino
got glossed
addressed
over.
that too in there. He was just like, well, if that happened in this era, it'll be totally different. But
But
the
it
fact that
did.
it didn't happen during no internet, yeah, we didn't care. What's the next mixtape coming out? That's what we cared about.
Yeah,
Who's dropping the next
and we
mixtape?
wrong for that. We flat out wrong.
Like,
We flat out wrong for letting that shit slide. The only reason it's not
I
as
don't. I'm
big of
almost
a deal to
positive-
us.
I'm almost positive during this time frame.
We got
As
a
much as
man
we're
that's
gonna
supposed
elevate
to.
and we're gonna call him like the dude is a good rhyme sayer and all this little stuff. How many of his albums did you buy?
At least maybe 4 legit.
You-
The
you
rest,
brought-
yeah, the rest is nah.
Yeah, at a point you just realize like, yeah, it ain't for me. You know what I mean? And like I said, like with all the voices and stuff that he does and all that, like it's I know, that's so contradictory because like now you got
Yeah, everybody doing
Everybody
the different
kinda do
voices
it,
and
yeah.
inflections, but yeah, this is a difficult situation because back in the day, again, they were able to hide a lot of different things that happened as far as in music in general, in media, and in Hollywood. Like so, the behind the scenes stuff is the stuff that we really don't know about. But I think as fans, we were definitely it was easy to pull one over on us
Yeah.
because we didn't really care. And then being 18, 19, or however old you were,
the industry did a good job of hiding all this stuff. Look at Bill Cosby. Look at what's the producer dude that was raping all the girls. Look at R. Kelly. How long the whole industry knew about all that little stuff, and it just like until we actually like.
and you
nah,
still
this is-
listen to R. Kelly to this day.
made
You
good
know,
music. Uh, the music was good, man. It's amazing. It's crazy. But then and then Michael Jackson, like all this little stuff, like
and you can't take away how the music made you felt prior to knowing about
yeah, what all that stuff.
somebody being a creep and a scumbag. You
And
know,
everybody will talk about this, but every musician that you knew in the 90s and early 2000s did songs or wanted a song with R. Kelly during that time frame or whatever. And they could have stopped that long before we ever knew about it. All of them knew because you got hints of it. We just talked about it in the other song. He was like rated R. Like people still did songs with him after he went to court that in that time frame. So it is what it is, man. Oh, we're getting off topic on that. Like,
but
let's
yeah, man. I
stay
mean,
on.
but again, I don't agree with what's happening right now because he brought Royce the 5'9" on, and I don't want to stay on this topic super long. Probably give him another 5 minutes of this topic because I think it's a good discussion point. But I think that's when Benzino started crossing the line as far as
Yeah,
calling Royce, pretty much Uncle Tom, or once people start saying things about Massa and all that stuff. Although I do think Royce need to probably stay out of M's affairs a little bit more, but that's just my personal opinion on whenever somebody says something about M.
yeah. I mean, because it's like I I definitely think he's taking it too far and where he's going. Like, it's because like, bro, if you ain't got the backing to it, whatever, if you already received money off of it, whatever, what are you still arguing about? Eminem, like he had his stature, you ain't about to take him down off a racist song or whatever. Like he's not gonna lose everything over that. Now, if he was raping and doing all this other stuff, he got 3 murders under his belt, something like that, you're gonna take him down. But like the dude is where he is right now. And certain people gonna listen to him, certain people not. It is what it is, you know? Your initial uh reason why you was doing it has failed. So why keep it going now? What you really think you're gonna expose something now as a I don't know how old he is, but he's older than us, at that age that's gonna get the younger generation to buy into what you're saying. It just ain't gonna happen. Like or is that younger generation even listen at him? I don't even know if they doing it. That's what I'm saying. Like he got his money, he's getting his royalties. His money is made, man. It's
Yeah.
made at this point.
So,
Just dead.
again, interesting topic. A lot of different ways this can go. And people just got to keep it real about him and what he said. And, did he make atonement for it? Was doing the songs enough? Speaking about it in random interviews that I know he's spoken on it, but is that enough? Is that
No, it's
enough for
not.
you?
M owes more. I don't know what he owes, but he owes more.
I get it, man. I just feel like we as fans
Yeah.
miss the ball when
Until I say I'm good, you keep apologizing. I don't know.
every time like Mike Vick has to, like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
brought it up,
yeah,
like
yeah,
anytime something comes about them damn dogs.
yeah. Every
Yeah.
time he go to a Cleveland game, he just
Hey man,
the
it is
dog
what it
house.
is. You said it and deal with it, but I just hope like some of this stuff that's going on in the media between Benzino and now Royce the 5'9", with Royce bringing up Benzino's daughter and all these other things. I don't know what happens behind the
Uh,
scene. His daughter is of age, but again, you know what I mean. She's an adult, but still at the same time, women and children, don't bring them into it. I don't know
I
what
mean,
that.
the beef is with him, like, and at this
Let's
point, if Royce was like doing it, just talk to your man and tell your man to
yeah,
come out and
stand down. Yeah,
y'all can
stand
kill
down.
this immediately if he
Yeah.
just came out and just said, "Hey, I'm sorry, the stuff happened. This is what
But I
happened
don't
at the
think
time,
these
and I'm
two
done with it."
dudes are ever going to speak to each
No, they
other.
not.
As far as Benzino
Do
and
they have
M,
to?
no,
No.
not at this point. It is what it is. It happened. Everybody's moved on, and unfortunately, Benzino, nobody did nothing about it. So, like, fuck.
Different time, man. Different
Yeah.
time. You was ahead of your time and fighting for all this little stuff. I mean, but you was well ahead of your time because obviously none of the other corporations or anything supported any type of movement like that. They seen their money and you was in the way of them getting their money. So they
Yeah.
was easily gonna move you off to the side at that point. But thank you for fighting the fight at that point. And like you said, M probably put it on wax or whatever. We never probably gonna get the actual apology that we need to. But should he have done more? Well, according to all the other stuff that's been put out there and the other people who's been caught up in worse situations, yes, he should have.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So if you listen this long and you like kind of what we talked about and want to hear more topics like this, hit that like button. If you're listening on audio, make sure you subscribe on whatever DSP provider that you're listening on. That way you can come back again and again, and definitely set your alerts, because that's the first time you're gonna know about it before we post to any type of social media, reminding you that is on that. Speaking of social media, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Facebook, Don't Sleep on the Couch podcast, on Twitter and Instagram at DSC underscore podcast. And with that said, Press, you got any last words for this segment?
Yeah, man. He named all that social stuff, but really the best way to promote anything is word of mouth. Tell your friends, just talk to them. I mean, that's how we hear about a lot of the music, and we get it to. It ain't from all those social media stuff. It's just from people just talking. So hey, that still works too.
All right. So with that said, we'll be right back.